Nikola Jokic is in the midst of having once again another MVP season, and if he wins, it will make it the third straight year he's won it, which hasn't been done since Larry Bird in the 1980s. He's averaging a 25-point triple-double on ridiculous efficiency, and on his current trajectory, there has been no other NBA player who's averaged 25 points on the efficiency Jokic is doing it in the history of the NBA. But despite this feat, many people, including the people on the panel, tend to overlook and underrate how good of a player Nikola Jokic is offensively. There's a subsection of people, a la people like Dub, Shaq, and Dell, that feels like the ones who love to praise and rate Nikola Jokic offensive prowess highly, that they're just the stat guys. But is this really true? Is Nikola Jokic not passing the eye test to rate him as highly as many do? Well, we'll get into that in this video, but before I do, make sure you guys hit that like button to show me you want to see more of these type of videos, and also hit the subscribe and notification bell to keep you posted, and let's get right into it. I want to make a point of emphasis right off the bat before I get into the film that offense isn't just scoring and playmaking. I've noticed throughout all the convos that's been going on that many people like to equate offense to only those two categories, which to me is doing a big disservice to how you should look at a player's offensive ability, because there's a lot of indicators that you're missing. On the screen now, I try to name everything I try to look at when I evaluate a player's offensive ability. It may be missing a few, but it runs home the point. Look at how many things you usually look at when you watch a basketball player on offense. It ranges from their ability to screen, play finish, how they play different defensive coverages, and more. And Nikola Jokic practically fills all of these boxes. Yet people tend to not value most of these things, which is why you have some people being very ignorant when they talk about Nikola Jokic offensive ability. So let me shift gears and get into Jokic offense through the film's lens. Nikola Jokic's scoring ability and his effectiveness is almost second to none. As we know, he's one of the most efficient basketball players we have ever seen play. But why is that? For one is how good he is at finishing around the rim. Nikola Jokic is 7 foot and 284 pounds. So you're not going to find a lot of guys that you can place on him when he tries to post up and actually slow him down. He's great at establishing his position and sealing off his man. When he catches the ball, all he needs is 1 or 2 dribbles and he gets easy shots at the rim. Sometimes he doesn't even need to dribble, because once he gets the entry pass, he can just finish right over the defender. And he also he mixes in that large frame with uncanny footwork, where he can use fakes, up and under, spins to get the defender to bite and go another way to score. Because of this, he creates great separation to fall into his jump hooks to score too. But more than anything, what really makes him so good as a finisher is his touch around the rim. When you see him go to the finger roll or the jump hooks, it's almost like he's floating the ball to the rim, usually never having too much backspin on the ball to cause a miss, always putting the right amount of force on the ball to score. You really see how good his touch is when he goes for the floaters. Whenever a defender actually possesses a threat to Jokic in the paint, he would rely on his floater to score about 5 feet away from the rim. Jokic is probably the best player at the NBA at scoring with a floater, which shouldn't even be common for a center. His floater is really weaponized whenever he's the roll man. Because of Jokic's frame, it's hard for the perimeter defenders to get over the screen because of how much space he covers. And whenever a player does hit Jokic's screen, not too many people are ready to hit a 284-pound man and still recover back to their man they're guarding, which is why it opens up a lot of his floaters for him to resort to. Jokic as a roll man in general just causes defenses too much trouble, because if you decide to play a drop or hedge action, like I stated, if the player hits Jokic with a good pocket pass, he will flow right into those 100% make floaters. And if you decide to switch the action, Jokic is just too big and has just too much strength for most players in the NBA, so he'll just back down his opponent for easy buckets. And let's just say you actually have all of this covered and you played this well defensively. Well, then Jokic will fall into his midi jumpers. Jokic is one of the most efficient mid-range shooters we've ever seen, with having a 2-motion jump shot. Because of his height, he's going to shoot over pretty much every defender. And this doesn't only extend to the mid-range, it also extends to the 3-point line. Because of the danger Nikola Jokic places on defenders as a spacer, being a 5, he usually pulls rim protectors out of the paint, which opens up the floor for a lot of his teammates. Also, Nikola Jokic might not seem like he would be good at attacking in the full court, but he's actually very good in transition. He's a very good trailer, placing himself in a position to attack a scrambling defense, or even when on occasion he would be the one pushing the ball down the floor and with his elongated strides, he'll score at the rim. And back to the half court, Nikola Jokic still provides amazing value away from the ball, particularly as a cutter. Whenever he likes to slip the screen and get defenders when they're playing more aggressive, he'd use these slips to create separation on his cuts to get open. He has great awareness too. When he can realize his teammates are going to be in a tough situation, he'd cut to an open space on the court where he'd give his teammate an easier out to pass, which benefits them both since he's helping his teammate in a tough situation and he's giving himself an easier situation to score. Nikola Jokic as a scorer, there's just a lot of things to like, and he brings it in so many things as a scorer, which explains why he's so efficient. But there is one negative in his scoring that holds me back from me being too high on it, is his passiveness. As a scorer, I like when sometimes you're more aggressive with your touches, and sometimes that can hurt your efficiency, which I believe is worth it sometimes if you're pressuring defenses and putting your team in favorable matchups. Jokic, for as good as he is at pressuring defenses, there can be many deviances in his scoring, mainly in the volume. Some games we'll see in the regular season, Jokic will only attempt 7 shots for the entire game, which can sound good because the Nuggets will still win those games. However, this can be at times bleed into the value because he brings as a scorer, where in games where he takes 10 shots attempts or less, the main reason for this isn't because the defense is giving him trouble. It's mainly because he'll look to pass too much and not look to punish his matchup more, which to me matters a lot because in the playoffs, I value guys' resiliency as a scorer a lot. If they can up their volume come postseason time, which more times than not will come at a sacrifice in their efficiency. But if it's putting massive amounts of pressure on the defense and it's helping the team overall, I believe it's well worth the trade-off, and I do believe this is an aspect that Jokic has to work at. Now, to talk about Jokic's most valuable skill set that I've noticed many people can be split about is his passing and playmaking ability. To just talk about his passing here for a second, I'll be honest with you, for the amount of film I've watched thus far and the thousands of players I've seen, I honestly don't see how someone can actually watch the same or even more amount of film and sit here and say that there's 5 players in the entire NBA history that actually passes the ball better than Nikola Jokic. And when I look at a player's passing ability, I'm not just looking at the flair. I'm looking at how is the pass first, helping the teammates, and B, how difficult was the pass and how much value was it? Nikola Jokic, when I look at his passing ability, there isn't a single pass Jokic can't make. Whether that's him making a pass through a tight window and skipping it to the corner, or whether he's making pocket passes when he's the initiator in the pick and roll, when he's passing in the post, whether that be when teams send doubles and he'll still be able to hit the cutter. And overall, his delivery on the unique passes he makes with either hand, because Jokic has no difficulty just using his left hand to whip passes around the court. Jokic doesn't have a weakness to me as a passer. He has all these traits you want and thence more. Especially his manipulation as a passer. It's almost like he moves defenders on a chessboard whenever he decides to do no-look passes, when he moves the defender one way to only open up a gap in a defense in another way and then pass it there and create an efficient opportunity to score. And finally, to talk about his playmaking. This is where I see a lot of people get mixed up at, and over the years, a lot of people have changed the definition or more so refined the way they define playmaking. The way I would describe playmaking is very simple. It's how many opportunities you create for your team to score and how efficient the opportunities you are creating. Gravity would be in this subsection because a player that could generate a ton of scoring gravity will always force the defense to send extra attention, which will create high leverage shots. And the second one is you have to be a willing passer. Example is Carmelo Anthony. Melo is one of the best scorers of all time that generated a ton of gravity during his peak years, but he wasn't a willing passer at all. So when teams would load up and send doubles at him, he would struggle to first make the correct read and he'd be too slow to make the pass, which bled into his playmaking. Also, another component in my definition of playmaking that is crucial is how efficient the opportunities you are creating are. But let's look at some examples. Player A was able to pressure the defense and then create an open 3-point opportunity. Boom, that's playmaking. Now let's look at player B. Player B was able to pressure the defense but instead created a layup attempt. Both players exhibited playmaking. but one shot was more valuable, and that was player B, because he created a wide open layup, which is more valuable than creating a 3-point shot. Funny enough, every negative I just named isn't applicable to Jokic. Jokic is great at generating perimeter shots, and he's one of the best ever at creating shots around the rim. His playmaking as a center, I believe no one in the history of the NBA in the center position has come close to be able to replicate the level that Jokic is doing it at. Nikola Jokic, to me, is without a doubt one of the best offensive players ever, and arguably is the best to play at the center position. Because of the amount of value he brings in so many different areas on the court, I know a lot of people are in a frenzy because you have people like Lowe saying Jokic is a better offensive player than Kobe, but without getting mad and quickly just dismissing the question, look over everything I talked about in this video. Go over Jokic's entire offensive personnel and ponder the thought. If saying Jokic is better than X NBA great or Y NBA great as an offensive player, is it really that crazy of a question to pose when you truly break down all of their games? Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button to let me know if you guys want more of this content, and hit the subscribe and notification bell to keep you posted. And with that all being said, I hope all of you have a blessed day.